Everyone thinks Cooper from Interstellar is the perfect hero. Pilot, father, savior of mankind. But what if I told you that his entire journey is not a feat, but an escape? And now you're about to see something that most viewers don't notice at all. Christopher Nolan himself left direct clues in the movie that Cooper is not at all what he seems, and you definitely missed them. Be sure to watch the video to the end, and you definitely won't miss the most important facts about the main character. Everyone loves beautiful stories about heroes. Stories about those who fight to the end, who save the world, who accomplish the impossible for the sake of others. And it seems that Cooper from Interstellar is just such a hero. Former NASA pilot, a brilliant engineer, and, most importantly, a father who loves his children more than life. At least, that's how it seems to us in the first few minutes of the movie. But there is one detail. If you look a little more closely, if you listen closely to his words, look closely at his actions, something disturbing becomes apparent. Cooper is not exactly a hero, or more accurately, not the kind of hero we're used to seeing. His story is not the story of a great mission for humanity. His story is the story of a man who desperately wants to escape. To escape not only from a dusty earth, a crumbling society, and global catastrophe, Cooper is running from himself, from his destiny, from his pain. His inner conflict begins long before NASA. Consider the world he lives in. The earth is suffocating. Dust storms are a daily occurrence. Resources are running out. People no longer dream. They survive. And there he is, Cooper, the farmer, a man who once sailed the skies, drove the machines, built the future, and now, a broken engine, dust in the house, fields of corn instead of an airstrip. His reality has become a living hell for him. His relationship with his children is also part of this tragedy. Yes, he loves Murph and Tom, but doesn't it feel like his eyes only shine when he talks about space? Only when he remembers the past, when he remembers who he really was. After all, his most sincere line is not about a future on Earth. It's about longing for what has been taken away. We were not born to die here. That phrase is his confession. And this is where what makes Cooper such a deep and contradictory character begins. Everyone around him is already resigned. The school principal tells him to grow corn instead of dreaming of the stars. NASA officially doesn't exist anymore. People are used to living without hope. Cooper isn't. It's like he's stuck between two worlds. His body is on Earth. His mind is in space. When it's suggested that he go back to flying, he doesn't even think about it. It's not a duty. It's not a sacrifice. It's his chance to break out of his prison. And therein lies the first important truth about Cooper. His heroism is not about saving others. It is above all an escape from himself, an escape from a world that has become alien to him. Visually, this is emphasized brilliantly. Nolan purposely shows Earth not as a living planet, but as a desert. The colors are washed out. The wind drives the dust. Even the cornfields look dead. But the shots of space are pure, deep, beautiful. Space is not a threat to Cooper. Space is his home. His life on the farm is a hardscrabble existence. His life among the stars is freedom. And that's why his journey begins not as a feat, but as an escape. Cooper is not the kind of hero who's immediately willing to give his life for others. He's conflicted inside. Love for his family versus hatred for his destiny. He truly loves his children, but he also desperately wants to be someone else, somewhere else. And now the big question. When faced with the choice of staying with his family, or flying away for good, what will win him over? Love, or his thirst for freedom? We'll get the answer in the next installment. Every character in history has a moment of truth, a moment that forever changes his image in the eyes of the viewer. And for Cooper, that moment comes precisely when he makes his most important and most painful decision, the decision to leave his own children. Here he is, a simple father. Here's his little daughter Murph, who fears more than anything to be without him. She feels it. She understands it in her heart, before anyone else. Because it's the children who can see the real truth behind all the pretty words of adults. And when Cooper tells her he has to fly away, she doesn't believe a word he says. Look at her eyes. They're not just hurt. There's real pain in them. There's a terrific moment when Murph bursts into his room and screams, "You don't have to fly! You don't have to leave me!" But Cooper had already made his choice long before that conversation. After all, he accepted NASA's invitation the second he heard about it. No pause, no hesitation. Because for him, it wasn't an offer. It was a lifeline. And here was his own daughter, clinging to her father with all her might. And he instead of staying, instead of sitting next to her and listening to her fears, instead of being there for her, he just walks away, goes into the very space that has always been most precious to him. But that's where his first mistake begins. The worst mistake any parent can make is to think that children will figure it out later, when they grow up, when they've grown up, when they forgive. Cooper thinks time will heal everything, that one day Murph will realize why he did it. But kids don't live in the here and now. They live in the here and now. They live in emotion. They live by presence. And the moment he closes the door behind him, Cooper isn't just leaving home. He's closing the door to her childhood. He's ripping away her most important pillar, the sense of security and trust that her father is always there for her. That's why their goodbye scene looks so searingly painful and honest. It's not pathos. It's not a great mission. It's the most ordinary human tragedy. The daughter won't let go. The father leaves anyway. And that's why the moment when he gets in the car, turns on the engine, and drives away without looking back, is the climax of his betrayal. Not because he's a bad man, not because he's selfish in the classic sense, it's because his desire to run away is stronger than his love to stay. And the worst part is, he doesn't even turn around to look at the house one last time, the room where his crying daughter sits. This is the real tragedy of the character, because in that moment he truly becomes not a hero, but a fugitive. But the most ironic thing about it all is that it is because of this act, it is because of this mistake, that his entire future destiny will turn into a punishment. Cooper has escaped, but the price for that escape will be monstrously high. For what lies ahead is lost time, years of loneliness, emptiness, and most importantly, guilt. The very guilt from which it is impossible to hide, even on the other side of the galaxy. The only question is, will Cooper ever be able to earn his daughter's forgiveness? Or will this door he once closed remain forever locked for him? Sometimes it's not his strength that makes a man a true hero. It's not his intelligence, or even his nobility. Sometimes it's his mistakes, his weaknesses, his failures, and that's exactly what's happening with Cooper. His path is not the classic movie hero's path. He's not an all-powerful Superman. He's not an infallible leader, and he's certainly not a flawless father. On the contrary, his journey is full of failure, full of pain, full of personal tragedy, and that's what makes him truly alive, real. So real that every viewer can recognize themselves in him. Look at what happens next. Cooper takes off thinking he's done the right thing, that he'll save the children, he's going to save humanity, and in doing so maybe even come home. But the reality in space turns out to be very different. His journey turns not into a heroic odyssey, but into a living hell. As soon as the crew reaches the first planet, they lose time. A monstrous amount of time. 1 hour on the surface is equal to 7 years on Earth. 7 years. In 1 hour. To the viewer it sounds like science fiction, but to Cooper it's the disaster of his life, because he realizes his children are growing up without him. Every step he takes on this planet is the stolen childhood years of his daughter and son, and it is here for the first time that not heroic determination, but despair appears on his face, real human despair. You can see the terror in Cooper's eyes, because this isn't just a mission anymore, it's payback. Payback for leaving, for not sticking around. And then his life becomes a chain of loss and pain. He loses his team, he loses his friends, he loses faith in his own plan, and finally, he loses hope. But it's at this point that the central paradox of his character is revealed. Because the weaker Cooper becomes, the stronger he looks to us. Because being a hero isn't about being perfect, it's about how you act when things fall apart. A hero isn't someone who always wins. A hero is someone who keeps fighting even when everything is against him. Cooper could have given up. He could have resigned himself. He could have accepted defeat and died somewhere in the cold void of space. But he chooses a different path. The craziest, the riskiest, the most desperate. He throws himself right into a black hole, into the absolute unknown, a place no one has ever come back from. But he's not doing it for glory. He's not doing it to save humanity. He's doing it for one reason only, to contact his daughter, to give her information, to help her save the Earth. And that's where the greatest miracle of Cooper's story occurs. The same man who has spent his life running away from Earth is now doing everything he can to get back to it, to his daughter, to his family, to those he once left behind. It's a complete transformation of his character. His flight becomes a journey home, his loneliness into a bridge to another person, his selfishness into true sacrifice. Because only by going through the hell of his mistakes, through despair, through loss, does Cooper become the man he was always meant to be. Not just a pilot, not just an explorer, but a father. A real father who fights to the end for his child. And it's at this point that Nolan shows us a terribly simple but brilliant idea. Sometimes to be a hero, you have to completely destroy yourself. You have to lose everything you thought was important. To finally realize that what really matters is not what's far away among the stars, but what's always been there. Sometimes fate likes to play strange games with us. We run away from something our whole lives. We look for answers in other places. We hope to find our happiness somewhere far away, and we end up back where we left off. That's the story of Cooper, a man who thought the meaning of his life lay somewhere beyond the Earth, somewhere in the vastness of space, on another planet, in another galaxy, anywhere but home. But Interstellar's final twist shows us something completely different. All this time, Cooper has been searching for the truth where it never existed, because all his destiny, all his journey, all his suffering has led him not to distant worlds, but back, to her, to his daughter. And that moment when he gets inside the black hole, when he finds himself in that very tesseract, one of the most insane and yet brilliant images in the history of cinema, is the moment of truth. Look closely. All around him is her room, his little Murph's room, the very room he once left, the very room where she once cried and begged him to stay. Hundreds, thousands of projections of this room stretch across time and space, and here Cooper is inside that endless memory, imprisoned not in cold space, not in the void, but in his own past, a place he thought was lost forever. And here's where it happens that turns the whole story upside down. Cooper himself becomes the very ghost that Murph felt as a child. The same ghost that gave her signs, knocked books off the shelf, left strange messages in the dust. All this time it had been him, her father, the man she loved the most, and hated most for leaving him. Cooper, who had once disappeared from her life, coming back into it in the most impossible way, not as a man, not as a pilot, but as an invisible voice from the past. And there it is, the great irony of fate. In his quest to escape as far away as possible, Cooper actually finds himself closer to his daughter than ever before. He becomes part of her childhood, part of her mind, part of her salvation. Because it's through these strange messages that she grows up, becomes a genius, a scientist, and ultimately, the person who saves the Earth. What Cooper wanted to accomplish with ships and technology happened because of love, a father-daughter bond that is stronger than time, space, and even death. It is this scene that turns Interstellar from science fiction into a real human drama. There is no classic ending here, where the hero returns on a white horse. Here the ending is quite different, quiet, deep, sad, and incredibly beautiful at the same time. Cooper realizes everything he's been searching for in space, everything he thought was important, was at home. His greatest mission wasn't to save the world. It was the simple human act of telling his daughter, "I'm here. I've always been here for you." That's what makes him a true hero. Not strength, not heroism, not space. It's love. Sometimes we think heroes are people who defeat evil, who fight their enemies, who perform feats worthy of books and legends. But the story of Cooper from Interstellar teaches us something very different. His journey is not the story of a victor. It's the story of a man with all his weaknesses, his fears, his mistakes, and his pain. A man who, like so many of us, dreamed of running away, dreamed of throwing off the weight of everyday life, dreaming of being somewhere far away where things would be different, where he would feel alive. But in the end, fate showed him a simple but incredibly important truth. No matter how far away, you're willing to run. It doesn't matter how many planets you fly across, no matter what horizons you traverse. Your most precious things will always be waiting for you at home. The love of our loved ones is what defines us as real people. Not technology, not scientific discovery, not traveling through black holes. It's the simple human feeling of being close, to support, to remember, love. Cooper traveled light years to realize that his greatest achievement isn't flying to other galaxies. His real accomplishment is his daughter, her life, her salvation, her faith in him no matter what. And you know, there's something frighteningly real about that, because every one of us has been that Cooper at least once. At least once wanted to escape, once thought that happiness was out there somewhere, far away. But life always brings us back to where we're really needed, where we're welcome, where we are loved. Interstellar is not just a movie about space, it's a movie about man, his loneliness, his fears, his love, and about how the greatest journeys sometimes don't happen in outer space, but inside our own hearts. And now a question for you personally. Do you think Cooper was a real hero? Or was he just a man who realized too late what really matters? Write your opinion in the comments. I'd be very interested to read it. And if you liked the showdown, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. There are many more stories to come, in which the heroes turn out to be completely different from what we are used to seeing them.